Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Cliff Ravenscraft Show, a podcast devoted to helping you take your message, your business, and your life to the next level. This, my friends, is episode number 454, and I am your host, Cliff Ravenscraft, the podcast answer man. And in this week's episode, I'm jumping into the audio journal format for the show so that I can give you a behind-the-scenes look into what is going on in my own pursuit of this business, this brand that I have, and my own message, my own business, my own life. What am I doing to take all of that to the next level in hopes that something that I might share here today might ignite some kind of spark, some inspiration inside of some of you who are looking for things that you can do to say, you know what, I should probably consider jumping in on that, whatever that may be. Let me give you an idea of some things that I'm going to cover just to see if this might be interesting for you to listen to this week. I'm going to talk to you about Tony Robbins and a live event that I'm going to. I'm going to talk to you about one of his paid training programs that I've participated in recently. Through like a kind of like an online product, but it's a physical product. We'll talk a little bit about that. I'm going to talk about something that I've been doing recently, which is one-on-one coaching. How about that? One-on-one mentoring. I'm going to tell you why I'm doing that, why I haven't done one-on-one for a while, and why I'm doing the type of one-on-one coaching / mentoring that I'm doing right now, and what I love about it, and kind of my thoughts about where that might fit into the product / service offering on the roadmap ahead. I'm also going to talk about tomorrow being the final day of my current session of Podcasting A to Z and just my overall thoughts about how Podcasting A to Z as a product or service is in my business. How do I feel about it now that I'm this far into it? And I'm also going to share with you in this episode some things that I believe are the next things I need to be focused on in my business. One of them, by the way, is an online course delivery system, shopping cart, content creation management, all of that built into one. If you want to know about this online service, I think I may have hinted about it in the past. Well, I'm going to talk about it in this episode. I'm going to talk to you about my desire to really get serious about a mailing list strategy. We'll get into that. Website update that is long overdue, and even my next big, huge income stream opportunity that has been on the roadmap for some time, and why it's been put off until now, why so much of this has been put off until now. But if you're interested in learning those things, that's what I'm going to talk about. And at the very end of the episode, I might even give you a little bit of the, taking life to the next level, some fitness updates. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, please stick in here with me. Just so you know, no editing this week. Live to hard drive. I know that I had gotten away from it for a while, but I am once again here in the studio on a Thursday evening. I am starting the recording of this podcast at 10:15 p.m. and it's due by 5 a.m. tomorrow. So I'm kind of wore out and I don't want to do a lot of editing this week. So yeah, live to hard drive. Everything that I say in this podcast, you get to hear it without it being edited. All right, so let's jump in. The first thing I want to share with you is Tony Robbins. Now, I would imagine that at least 95, maybe even 98% of the people who are listening to my voice in this podcast episode probably already know who Tony Robbins is. And for those of you who don't, I definitely don't want to say that Tony Robbins is a motivational speaker, because while he is a speaker and he is quite motivational and inspirational, he is definitely much more than that. And I'm only just now discovering that fact, that Tony Robbins is more than a motivational speaker. I've been aware of Tony Robbins for the past, I'd say 20 years. I remember, learning about Tony Robbins back when I was an insurance agent and I was studying how to do effective sales as an insurance agent. And, there was Brian Tracy and all these other guys out there that were kind of in the leading edge of personal development. And that's really where I saw Tony Robbins, as not just a motivational speaker, but somebody who really helped people in the area of personal development to take their lives to the next level. And I do remember and recall seeing some infomercials late at night. And as it relates to that, I do kind of remember thinking, Tony Robbins, he's one of those guys. He's one of those guys that is on late night television. He's psychologically trying to get lots of people to buy his products when they are at their, they have the least amount of resistance. They're up in the middle of the night, and they can't sleep and they're not thinking straight. And these people are being kind of just wooed into purchasing these products that are supposedly going to make their lives so much better. And I kind of saw him as a woo-woo, almost, I hesitate to say it, but just bluntly, a snake oil salesman. Is this guy the real deal? And I really didn't pay much attention to him. I would be I'd be at a sales conference, and in the middle of the night, I'm flipping through the stations on TV, and I'd see him for a little bit, and I'm like, okay, that sounds all great and stuff like that, but whatever. There's so much junk on infomercials in the middle of the night that they just use psychology of people who are weak and tired to buy their crap, if you will. That was my opinion. And for whatever reason, I lumped Tony Robbins initially, early on, into that category. And since then, I evolved into this place where I started to understand this online business world that's out there, this online marketing world. And then obviously I would say accidentally initially dropped myself into this online content creation world. Back in December 2005, when I started podcasting, I started it as a hobby, just playing around, and it led me to where I am today. So I'm not going to go through my history or anything like that, but I will say that in the online space, in the online business world, when I was being introduced to it, I still saw that there were a lot of shady people, a lot of snake oil salespeople. There were a lot of people out there who were promising get rich quick schemes, and for only $9.99 buy this product and you can transform your life. And there were all kinds of articles written about some of these people and how they collude together. And Tony Robbins was, I remember one such article that kind of put him into some of these online giants that were making massive amounts of money, and it kind of just fed into my belief that Tony Robbins was this guy that I originally thought he was. And it wasn't until about 2 years ago, I was sitting with my friend Michael Hyatt in his home. And yes, I just dropped that name out there, but I had the honor to sit down in Michael Hyatt's home. We were sitting in his office, and we were talking about various different things, and we were talking about the amount of money that people pay for online courses and personal development and personal growth, and how much money we invest in taking our own lives to the next level. And it's something that I have found to be true of all the people that I look up to personally, the people that I find successful, not just financially, but do it with a sense of purpose and who do it without taking advantage of others. And I'm talking about people like my friends Michael Hyatt, Dan Miller, Michael Stelzner, Ray Edwards, and I could name a bunch of other people that I admire very much. But there are these guys that I look up to, and each one of them have several traits in common. And one of those traits is the fact that they're consistently willing to invest top dollar to be trained by other people who have achieved greater areas of success in an area where they want to achieve a greater amount of success in that particular area. And so Michael Hyatt and I were sitting down and talking, and he started talking about Tony Robbins. And this is the first time I've really ever heard anybody talk about Tony Robbins in a positive light. Not that many people had ever talked about Tony Robbins in a negative light. I just had my own personal initial, conclusion just by the fact that he was on late night infomercials. Okay, so nobody told me Tony Robbins was bad. I just had this. It Well, you know what I mean. And then there was that one article that lumped Tony Robbins in with a bunch of other online people who, in this article, seemed to be with the slant that these people are all taking advantage of little old ladies. That kind of thing. They're just, guilting people out of their money. And so that was the only negative thing I'd ever heard about Tony Robbins. But I'd heard a lot of positive things just on the fringe about Tony Robbins. But this was the first time when Michael Hyatt and I sat down and talked with one another about this. It's the first time I'd heard somebody that I respected highly speak very highly of Tony Robbins, his materials, and actually told me that he had been to one of his live events. So Michael was telling me about, the products that he had purchased and gone through from Tony Robbins. And he also told me about the fact that he had been to one of Tony Robbins' live events. And this was the first time I heard about these things called the Fire Walk. Now, those of you who are very familiar with Tony Robbins and his events, you probably know all about the Fire Walk. This is where basically if you go to one of Tony Robbins' live events, there are going to be on, I think it's the first day of the event or the first evening of the event or the second evening, I'm not sure, probably the first, but there are long fields of burning hot coals. And what he does is he gets everyone to believe that they can do more than what they believe is possible. And to prove it, he teaches them how to barefoot walk across fiery hot coals. And so Michael Hyatt was explaining this to me, and he was talking about the fact that he and his wife Gail, that he paid for he and his wife Gail to go to one of these live Tony Robbins events, and the fact that they both walked on fire. And I remember just the attitude and the emotional zeal that Michael had. It was just a really positive vibe. Now, Michael, being who Michael is, he shared with me his overall opinion and thoughts and things like that. And I'll leave that conversation between you and Michael Hyatt one day if you have the pleasure and opportunity to have such a conversation with him. But here, what I can tell you is that overall, I came away from my conversation with Michael having a greater respect for who Tony Robbins is and what he offers to the world. And that all of a sudden just said, okay, now I'm willing to investigate Tony Robbins further. I'm willing to just be open to the fact that Tony Robbins is an incredible guy with a lot of incredible things to offer this world. And is he perfect? Who is? I mean, seriously. Who is perfect? Nobody. So anyway, I walked away from that. And then with a positive opinion of who Tony Robbins is. Then what happened was I had been meeting with my friend Stuart Crane, who is a very successful friend of mine as well. Just recently sold his company after 20 years or something like that. He started with his partner in a basement, and I think 20 some odd years later sold it for several $1 million. And it was a good deal for him. And when I was visiting him in his own home and sitting in his office, he was showing me his bookshelf, and of course there were books on it, but he had an entire shelf, maybe 2 shelves, I can't remember, of binders. And these binders were all cassette tape programs. And some of them were CD programs, but a lot of them cassette tape programs. From these were the things that he was listening to. These were the personal development products that he was purchasing back in the day to help him take his mindset and to help him expand his wisdom and knowledge of what it takes to have success in business and in life. And several of those materials on his shelf were from, you guessed it, Tony Robbins, and many other great people as well. And he just had high positive things to say about Tony Robbins also. And so as a result of those two people having some positive things to say about Tony Robbins, what I noticed is that whenever the name Tony Robbins popped up, my ears would perk up and I would start listening. So when there was a podcast episode from anybody who did an interview with Tony Robbins, regardless if I subscribed to that podcast or not, I would at least go and get that episode and listen to the interview with Tony Robbins. And well, over the last couple years, I can tell you that I have become somewhat of a Tony Robbins fan personally. And I believe in a lot of the things that he stands for, and I believe that he has done so many wonderful, powerfully awesome things for so many people. And so I've come to have a great amount of respect for Tony Robbins just based upon what I've seen on YouTube videos, YouTube interviews, YouTube clips of some of his conferences, and just the interviews and podcasts, all of that stuff. I've come to have a great amount of respect. I don't believe in everything that Tony believes in. I don't think he's perfect. But there is so much value that I believe he has to offer that I just knew that, I really like what he does. So much so that subconsciously I have this vision of what might be a part of my future. And the only way that I've been able to describe what I kind of envision my future might be like is that I kind of want to do what Tony Robbins does, maybe not at his scale, but maybe at his scale. I have no idea. But there's just been something about Tony Robbins. Every time I see what he's doing and how he operates and the ways that he's helping people and the methods that he does to do it, I just feel like compelled to, I feel attracted to it, if you will. So I was having a conversation with my friend Ray Edwards. You hear about Ray on this podcast a lot, and you should, because he's a very close personal friend of mine and he has a great amount of influence in my life because I intentionally set it up that way because I admire and respect Ray Edwards so much. Check him out at rayedwards.com, and if you're not already, subscribe to his podcast. Tell him Cliff says hello. All right, so anyway, Ray and I were talking on the phone a couple weeks ago, and one of the things he says, Cliff, I believe one of the next things that you should consider is investing in going to a live Tony Robbins event, the Unleashing the Power Within event. And then Ray told me that he had gone to this particular event in the past. And so he says, I don't want to tell you too much about it. In fact, he says, Cliff, I encourage you not to look up too much information because if you do, it will give away some of the things, and you don't want to look up too much information about it. So I chose intentionally not to look up that information. So anyway, I'm thinking, okay, how much does it cost to go to one of these events? And I looked it up, and I think it's like $2,000 or something like that, or it's well in excess of $1,000. And I'm thinking, okay, right now things are a little bit tighter than they typically are in my business. Just some things that my family and I are investing in and are paying for. That we got a lot of travel coming up, and the things are financially tighter now. And so what I said to Ray, I said, I'll prayerfully consider when I do this. And also another thing I said, Ray, I know you'll give me your authentic opinion on this. I said, but do you think it would be a valuable thing? Would it make more sense if I go and take Stephanie? Should I take Stephanie with me to this event? Should I pay for her to attend also? And he said that absolutely. He recommended, he goes, I could probably benefit on it, just by going on my own and have some powerful breakthroughs. And he says, but I think the value of taking Stephanie with you would be that you guys would come away on the same page. You would understand one another, and Stephanie would understand where you are and what's going on. And I think it would be a powerful thing if the two of you could go. I think it would work out either way, but man, if you could pull it off to where both of you could go. And so then, the cost all of a sudden just doubled, right? And so I'm thinking, okay, I will prayerfully consider this. And when I said that, just being transparent with you, my thinking was, okay, that's something I'll probably do in about a year to 2 or maybe even 3 years down the road. I mean, that's where I was as I was saying those words. I'll prayerfully consider the timeline of when that might possibly happen. Because one of the things Ray and I were talking about is, my next areas of income streams. Because, I'm looking to diversify some of the ways that I generate income. I've been extremely successful in one particular area, and actually in some other areas as well, but one area is the majority of my income. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but the thing is that I wasn't quite sure. I got off the phone with Ray after we were finished, and I'm like, okay, I'll prayerfully consider this. And then what happened was, I don't know what it was. We went out to dinner, and I'm thinking, and I come back out into my office late that night, and I decided, you know what, let me just go and look and see how much it costs to go to a Tony Robbins event. And so I look at the event page, and I'm going there right now, TonyRobbins.com. You can do this, by the way, as well if you want. Go to TonyRobbins.com and then look up events and then Unleashing the Power Within. So I'm pulling that up here, and let's just see here where it says Take Action. And by the way, Ray he suggested, Cliff, when you go, make sure you at least get the VIP seating. You don't want to get the general admission. You want to get VIP. He said he didn't necessarily suggest that I go to I didn't know that there were there are 5 different levels that you can invest to get into this conference, but he recommended VIP, which I would have thought would have been the more expensive or the most expensive, but it's not. So I went in, and he says, Cliff, you want to get the VIP because you want to be at least that close to the stage. You want to be that close to the vibe, the energy, the immersion of what's happening there. And if you get the lower cost tickets, you're going to be further away. I think you'll still benefit, but if you can invest at the VIP level, I think you'll be golden. So again, I have a tremendous amount of respect for the advice that my friend Ray Edwards gives me. And so I'm looking at the site here. And by the way, right now, VIP tickets, $1,695 per person. Okay. And so I need to buy 2 of those tickets when I go to this event. And not only that, but I need to travel to this place for myself and my wife. And, if I'm traveling with my wife, I want to put us in a nice hotel and make this a good time for both of us. So I'm sitting there thinking, okay, I have this amount of money in reserves right now. I could afford to do this, but it would mean saying no to some other things if I choose to do this. And so I did. I prayerfully considered it, and I'm like, okay, I definitely feel that this is something that I need to do. I believe there's a reason why Ray recommended it. I believe that there's a reason why this perfectly aligns with the end of my current session of Podcasting A to Z that at the time was coming up, but now is currently happening. It felt right. It felt right, and waiting did not feel right. And since the money was there, this is what I decided. I asked Stephanie, I told her about it, I told her about the conversation Ray and I had. I said, if I do this, do you want to do this with me? I explained to her what all this stuff was, except for the firewalk. I told her about that after I got the tickets. But yeah, so, and she, by the way, she's actually excited about the whole experience as well. But anyway, so I came down here, I purchased 2 VIP tickets. My wife has never flown first class before, and so I booked Stephanie and I both first class tickets for a flight between Cincinnati and Dallas, Texas. And I also booked us the closest hotel to the venue that the conference will be held at, and got us a really, really nice room. So all in total, I mean, this is going to be in excess of $5,000. Probably when it's all said and done, it's probably going to be about somewhere between $5,000 to $7,000 investment for this 4-day event that Stephanie and I are going to Tony Robbins. But again, for me, this is a huge deal. I can remember when I started this business, I remember thinking about going to smaller conferences where the admission to the conference was like a $197 ticket, thinking, I just can't do that. I can't do that. And thinking of it as an expense, not thinking of it as an investment in taking my business, my message, my business, and my life to the next level. And I just over the time, through all the things that I shared, I just became convinced, and especially with the final follow-up call with Ray there, that, okay, is it worth it to invest $5,000 to $7,000 for my wife and I to go together and immerse ourselves in a Tony Robbins event for 4 days? And the answer to that question, well, first of all, it wasn't even a question. It was, this is the next right step. So I wanted to share all of that with you to let you know that I'm taking my wife, Stephanie, and I are getting ready to leave this next Thursday, 1 week from when I'm recording this episode. Stephanie and I will be on our way to Dallas, Texas, or we'll be in Dallas, Texas by this time next week. And and I think it's Friday is when we will be walking on fire. So that I can't wait to come back and share with you what that experience was like. And I would assume that what Ray was talking about, that, you don't want to give away, I don't want to give you too much away and stuff like that. I probably will, selectively keep from sharing too much with you, because it sounds to me like this is going to be an event that I'll want to recommend to people. And I'll know that when I get back. So be prepared to hear me talk about that event when I get back. So that's one thing that's going on right now, is this Unleashing the Power Within event. Stephanie and I are going to see a Tony Robbins event. I'm super stoked about it. And again, a takeaway. What can you take away from this? Number one, if you're not familiar with Tony Robbins, maybe you want to, based upon my experience and my own feelings about who Tony Robbins is and what he has to offer, maybe my own description of him will open up an opportunity for you to think, maybe I should look a little bit deeper into what Tony Robbins does and what his message is and what he has to offer. I'm not saying you should. I'm just saying maybe that did that for you. If not, at least hear what I'm saying about the idea and the thought process of how going to such an event and investing at this dollar amount in events and in your personal development, how it's not an expense. This is not an expense. This is not an expense of $5,000 to $7,000. This is $5,000 to $7,000 of investing in my relationship with my wife. It's investing in us growing together. It's investing in my own private, personal, and also professional development. I do believe there's going to be some powerful things that will be said and done at that event, and I just have this sense that it's going to be a life transformational event. I'm prepared for that to be the case, and that's all I have to say about that. All right. So one of the things that happened is after I registered, of course, Tony Robbins and his organization being the master marketers that they are, one of the emails I get is this thing that says, hey, you are eligible for 30-day free access to anything within Tony's library of products. You can try anything for 30 days and return it if you're not happy or whatever, or and return it before when the time is up if you don't want to keep it, is basically what it has. And his products are not online digital products. You would think at this day and age that he would have some online video products, but and I think that he just released an app. In fact, he did release an app because I just downloaded it when it came through. It's called Breakthrough. So look that up in the App Store. There's a bunch of free material, video format material available in the app from Tony Robbins, and it's valuable stuff. The little bit that I've looked at so far, and they're bite-sized chunks. Go check it out. It's called the Breakthrough app. Just search for Tony Robbins in the iOS App Store, and if you're on Android, I don't know if it's there, but certainly on iOS, Breakthrough is the iOS application. Anyway, I got this email that says, hey, you have access to try out any of Tony's products for 30 days. And you send back anything that you don't want to keep. And of course, I just knew this is, their way of marketing some stuff. And I reached out to Ray and I said, Ray, I'm reaching out. And they said, and they even called it homework. This is to prepare you for the event. And I said, Ray, they're calling this homework. Isn't this their way of just trying to sell me one of Tony's products and stuff like that? And he says, well, maybe. But he says, the way that Ray explains is, listen, you could go to the event and not have any of these products, not go through any of these products beforehand, and I believe you'll still get so much out of the event. And he says, what the way I like to think of it, and is that, and probably one of the reasons that they're offering it is to help. If you can imagine, a farmer is preparing the soil for planting, right? So there are going to be things that will be planted and that will grow as a result of you going to this event. And what going through one of these products might do for you is to prepare the soil, to help, just to prime you to prepare you for what's going to be done at this event. And so I'm like, okay, so it's more than that. I said, so I'm looking at the different options and the different areas of focus, and there was one that spoke out to me, and I decided to purchase it, and it's $299, and it's a 10-day program called Creating Lasting Change, 7 Master Steps to Maximum Impact. And the idea is that this helps you become, let me see if I can, it says this is from the back of it. It says, you have the ability to make a profound impact on the world. Master the psychology of leadership with Creating Lasting Change, a new program from Anthony Robbins. Anyway, the whole idea, here's what it says. It says, you will learn to influence thoughts, emotions, and actions in others. You'll learn to recognize the patterns behind all human behavior. You'll learn to apply immediately the principles of human needs psychology. Trademark, by the way. You will learn to create lasting impact with any person, group, or situation. You'll learn to help others identify what may be holding them back in life. Now, when I read that, I'm like, okay, I know that that's a lot of clever copywriting and stuff like that, but as I'm thinking about this next season of my life, the next season of my business, and the ways that I want to help people, that is exactly the kinds of things that I want to help people do. I want to help people take their lives to the next level, and I want to help people identify what's holding them back. I want to learn what is it that's in the psychology of, in using the understanding of psychology, what is it that's causing people to get stuck, and how can I effectively help them get unstuck? And I'm like, okay, I'm definitely going to invest in this. And so I call this person up that is my, facilitator. They have this person that once you sign up and become a customer with the Tony Robbins organization, they become your like customer service rep, but they have a special name for it that I can't think of right now. And by the way, if anybody ever wants to go to a Tony Robbins event, please email me and let me know. That they have an amazing affiliate program. For every so many people I refer to the event, and as long as you book through my representative, I think it's for every 2 or 3 people that I send, I get a free ticket. So if you ever decide you want to go to a Tony Robbins event, please let me know, and I will connect you to my contact person. Don't have to do that, but if you decide you want to go to a Tony Robbins event, do let me know first. That would be awesome. But anyway, so I went ahead and contacted this person. I said, listen, I don't want the free 30 days. Just go ahead and put the $299. Here's my credit card. I want to buy this, and I already know I'm going to keep it. So I got the program in, and it's a 10-day program. Now, it comes on CDs. I don't have a CD player. Matter of fact, I only have one computer in my office that has a CD slot in it. And I know I'm not going to sit down and listen to it right there at that computer. So what I did is I immediately took all the CDs and burned them to MP3 files. And I also found a way to cleverly get those all onto my phone. I can't go into all the details here. I don't want to share all of those with you because I have a clever way of getting it onto my phone and being able to do some things that are unique. But so here's what I can tell you. I made a commitment that I would go through the program and listen to it all first without taking notes. Now, I don't know that going back, I don't know that this was the wisest idea, but I think it is. I think it'll all work out. But the idea was that the first time through, I would listen to once a day, each day for 10 days, I would listen to the assigned audio material. And I would listen to it for the first time without taking any notes whatsoever, just to hear it, just to listen, just to absorb what it is, the overview of what all is involved in this 10-day Creating Lasting Change program. And so I did that, and I did it while riding my bike, while I was out cycling for the most part. Some of it was done on the Stairmaster at the gym, but most of it was done while cycling. And I had one of the other things I did was when I noticed that some of these audio clips, these audio tracks, they were very short, and I had to stop and play each MP3 file. And finally, I just brought them all the MP3 files into Audition, and each day I took all the tracks and put them into one MP3 track and saved it. And not only that, but the audio levels of some of these were kind of just all over the place. And so I did some hard limiting and amplification to bring them up as high as possible, so that I could hear them while riding down cycling down the road at high speeds and stuff. So, but anyway, I listened to the entire 10 days worth of program over the course of 10 days. And I can tell you, it was very eye-opening material, and I really valued it. I very much enjoyed what I heard there, and I know that I need to go. My thinking was that as soon as I'm finished with that, I'll start another 10 days, and in those 10 days, I will be going through and taking the notes. Well, I have not I finished the 10 days, and it has been probably about 5 days since then, and I haven't started the next 10 days where I sit down and take notes. That has more to do with how busy I've been lately with podcasting A to Z and some other things that I'm working on and just life in general. But I do plan on going through it. And at this point, there's only 7 days before I leave for this event. It's going to be something that now that I'm sitting here thinking about it, I'm going to have to put it on my schedule to do that 10 days sitting down, taking notes when I get back from Dallas. And I'll probably, in my mind, be on fire and even more passionate and excited about that material coming back from the event, and might even see it through different eyes. So it probably all worked out for the best anyway. But I can tell you this, the Creating Lasting Change does talk about the 6 basic human needs that everybody has, and I learned about why people, what happiness is, and I kind of agree. It's like, wow, I never thought of happiness that way. And it's all about how you have a map and an idea of what life should look like, and when your circumstances in life align with what your map is, then you're happy. And to change, if you're not happy, you either need to change the map or you need to change your circumstances. And there's so much more to it than that, and things that I'll probably eventually come into this podcast and share those things as I'm going through it the second time after I get back and take notes. You kind of might get some Cliff's notes, if you will, on creating lasting change and stuff like that. So anyway. So here's what I'm sharing. The first things that I've shared in this episode, I'm investing heavily in personal and professional development, paying for a live event, paying for top dollar for some course materials and stuff like that. And I'm taking action. I'm going to the event. I'm going through the materials, and not just once, but even planning on going through it a second time. So enough about Tony Robbins. The next thing I have on my outline here to talk about is the fact that I've been doing some one-on-one, and I'm going to call it mentoring. You could call it coaching as well. And this started, it started out back in the beginning of this year, this podcast episodes where I talked about the year of identity and some of the things that I wanted to do. I wanted to work with some people beyond the scope of just the technical aspects of podcasting. I believe that I have a lot of value to offer to people outside of just what cables do you need, how do you hook this up, how do you get the best sound quality, how do you set up your podcast feed. Those are things that are great. They're things that I know a great deal about and have lots of experience with and helped thousands of people in that area. And I probably still will moving forward. And I certainly will for the next foreseeable future, but I wanted to do something that at least is a little bit, that taps into my heart and passion for people and helping people and serve people with my life experience. And right now, I believe that there are things that I know about how to find balance in your health and fitness and family life and work. There are things that I have experience in and how to say no to certain business opportunities and focus on the ones that have the greatest return. There are so many areas of life and business that I believe that I could help somebody who might be in a position where I once was. And so the idea was that I wanted to find people who are at the beginning of their online business journey, at the very beginning, or somewhere behind where I am. I want to know, because for me, my vision was, okay, there's probably a couple people out there, and maybe you're one of them. There are probably a couple people out there who have just been dabbling with this idea of creating a blog or creating a podcast or creating some content online. And it's related to a passion, and they see an opportunity potentially to monetize it. They're thinking, man, wouldn't it be great if one day I could do this full time? Well, my friends, I want to tell you, in December 2005, I started as a hobby, and I remember after falling in love with podcasting, just within 4 or 5 months, I'm like, okay, wouldn't it be great if I could do this for a living? Wouldn't it be great if I didn't have to do insurance and I could focus on podcasting and helping people in this area, in this industry, in this realm? Wouldn't it be great? And thinking that was a pipe dream. That there's just no way. And then after 18 months, of keep dreaming and dreaming and dreaming, telling my wife about the dream and hearing, telling her about all these other people who told me, Cliff, you could do this, you could do this. And finally, my wife's like, okay, Cliff, okay, enough people have told you could do this, and I'm aware that you could do this. You need to do this. And then after 18 months, she tells me, you need to quit your job in insurance and do this full time. And then I remember thinking, okay, maybe I can, and I have your permission, and we both knew the risk, and she told me about all the things that would be okay if those things happened, and by golly, we pulled the trigger. And I remember, and then there are some of you who are in somewhere in that stage. You're either just now thinking about it, it's a pipe dream, or maybe you are just ready to pull the trigger and get a little bit more serious about this whole transition period. And then there are some of you who you've made the transition. Now you have this business and you're making a little bit of money, but boy, are things financially tight, and you're not able to sleep in the middle of the night because, you don't know if there's going to be food on the table for the family. You're just worried and filled with anxiety and fear. And am I being irresponsible? And I just recall all of those feelings that I had, and what products and services, and the temptation to do anything and everything that I might be qualified to do, and the idea and learning through the process of saying, you know what, yes, I can help people remove viruses off their computer, but I must say no to every single opportunity that comes up to get paid to do so, because that's not what I need to be known for. And just going through all of these different things and what I've learned and what I want to do, what I knew I wanted to do is I want to take where I am today and help people who are further behind on their journey, who are coming along the same path that I'm traveling down. Because that's what I found. That, Dan Miller, Michael Hyatt, Ray Edwards, all of those guys that I look up to, they're all blazing the path ahead of me, and they're so much value as mentors and advisors to me. And I want to be that for the people who are further behind, who are traveling down this same journey. And so I knew that this is a path that I wanted to be on, and it's not just helping with people with podcasting. I want to help them with their life goals and just motivation and encouragement. I believe my greatest gift is not what I know, but as far as technical skills, I believe my greatest gift to the world and anybody that I work with is just being an encouragement to them, helping them have courage to move forward, to take next steps, to inspire them to make decisions. And not only just to inspire them to make decisions, because a lot of people are inspired, they make decisions, and then it's kind of like a New Year's resolution. But I believe that when I work with people, I not only encourage them and inspire them, but I motivate them to take action. And I believe that if they choose it, I can hold them accountable in an encouraging way. And so that's what I wanted to be able to do, a little bit more of that. And I decided a couple months ago I would do some one-on-one coaching, but not if it was related directly to podcasting. I wanted it to be outside of the realm of podcasting as far as helping you with your podcast specifically. I don't mind talking to somebody about their podcast as an overall part of their journey and their path of this online business entrepreneurial space. But I definitely wanted more of the life and career focused kind of coaching and mentoring. I really just want to be a source of encouragement and helping people help them discern what are their next right steps, and then encourage them and motivate them to take those steps and to see progress. That's what I wanted to do. And so I've been offering that, and just recently I made a couple offers to some folks for a $3,500 package. This package will definitely be more expensive moving forward. But I'm working with some friends now, and for $3,500, it's mentoring with me for 3 months. 3 months of mentoring with me, and what you get is 1 hour per week, every week for 3 months. And it's $3,500 right now. So I'm working with some folks, and it has been incredible. I love it. Oh my gosh. It is so much. I tell you, it's rewarding. That's the word. I think that's the greatest word I can give you. For me, it is rewarding. I believe that I'm in my sweet spot when I'm just having these 1 hour conversations, just hearing what they've got going on, having them brainstorm ideas with me and saying, okay, now what do you want to do? Let's talk about where we're heading. Let's talk about how do we get there? What are the next right steps? And then it's like, okay, can you commit by this time next week you will have done this, and this. All right? I'll talk to you next week. And that's what I've been doing. And week after week, I'm working with people who are taking action. They're moving forward, and it's incredibly rewarding is the word. So I know that some of you out there, you might have heard me talking about this. And if you're interested in working with me as your personal mentor, I think this is a mentoring relationship. If you want some encouragement, some discernment, and some next right steps, and by the way, just real quick, I had this conversation with these folks that I'm working with. I do not promise you that in 3 months you're going to be monetizing. I do not promise you that in 3 months you're going to see, within a year you're going to see a 10x return on your money. I did not grow what I'm doing overnight, and so since I did not grow what I'm doing overnight, I can't teach you how to be an overnight success. But what I can tell you is that, and this is if for those that don't know my story and you're even thinking about saying, hey, Cliff, I'd like to talk to you more about your $3,500 coaching for 3 months or mentoring for 3 months. If you're thinking about that, let me just tell you, my story is that I started podcasting in December 2005. In December 2006 was where the first time I publicly said to the world, after 1 year of doing it as a hobby, I said, boy, I would love to one day do this as a full-time career. And just to put my foot in the water, I'm going to create this thing called Podcast Answer Man. So 1 year after doing it as a hobby, I launched Podcast Answer Man. If you go back and listen to episode 1 of Podcast Answer Man, which this is the Cliff Ravenscraft Show. It used to be known as Podcast Answer Man. But go back and listen to episode number 1 on my website. You'll hear the very first episode. It's like, the reason why I created this, because I think it would be cool if within the next 5 to 10 years, if I could possibly do this full time. Well, what happened was in September of 2006, I put my 90-day notice in, and 2 years after doing this as a hobby, not making very much money at all, but still making enough money to think that I could possibly pull this off. For me, what I did was, after 2 years of doing it as a hobby, I turned it into my full-time career. Starting in January 2008, full-time, self-employed, I'm now a business owner. What the heck was I thinking? And by the way, my first year in business, my total personal income at the end of the year, and by the way, I worked, I worked 7 days a week for the first 9 months, 12 hours a day. And after 9 months, I decided to take 1 day a week off. And the other 6 days a week, I went to 12 to 14 hours a day, sometimes as much as 18 hours. And at the end of my first year working around the clock, my total personal income from my business, my only income that year from the work that I was doing, $11,000 personal income net. That's net pay. Now, the business made money. The business was profitable. The business paid for health insurance for my family, paid for all the overhead of the business and stuff like that. But there's some creative ways that we just made our lives. We existed that year, if you will. So I did not get rich quick after doing it for 2 years as a hobby. Then I'm full-time 1 year. My first year doing it full-time, $11,000 personal net income. So I can't teach you how to start where you are. If you've just started your podcasting or your blogging or your online content creation, 6 months ago, I can't teach you how over the next 6 months to turn this into a business where you can leave your day job. I didn't do that. It took me a long time to be able to build it up to where I am today. But what I can tell you today, here's what I can say is in 2009, the business started to see a significant slow increase in income. In 2010, it was a radical increase. And then all of a sudden I started to build and establish some amazing relationships that helped blow things out of the water for me. And today, my business and I'm the only employee in my business. My wife is technically a part of my team, but I'm the only paid employee in my team. I have one virtual assistant. My overhead cost of my business is very low, and my business today generates routinely over $500,000 a year. So that's my journey. And so I can't promise you that I'm going to give you a 10x return on your money within 6 months or a year. But what I can tell you is that I have learned a lot of things. And there are a lot of things that I know today that if I knew them in January 2008, I probably would have made more than $11,000 that year. But I learned a lot of things the hard way. I didn't have a mentor in working with me and helping me through all these things because, well, unfortunately, I didn't think of investing in those things back then. I couldn't afford it. And as a result of it, I learned a lot of things the slow and the hard way. So with all of that being said, if you're out there and you're behind where I am in your online content creating, online business venture journey, or in life, or maybe it's even just maybe there are some of you thinking, I don't want to create an online business. I'm very satisfied with my day job. But one thing, Cliff, where you are further down a path than I am is in health and fitness. I've seen your transformation. I've watched you over all these years, and I'm 300 pounds and I'm going to die in a couple years if I don't take care of myself. Or more than likely, you won't die. You'll live until you're 80, but your quality of life will be just absolutely pitiful. And that's some of the motivation that kind of got me going. And maybe you might think to yourself, well, you know what? I wonder, I'd be willing to sign up for $3,500 to have 3 months of one-on-one calls every week with Cliff to help me, to mentor me and encourage me in my journey of taking my health and fitness to the next level. And I'm not a health and fitness expert, but what I can do is encourage and inspire. I can share my experiences. I can point you to resources, my network. I got so many things to offer in that area as well. So I didn't intend for this episode to be a commercial for those things, but it just kind of came out as I was talking there. All right, so that's that. Mentoring, coaching, I'm in love with doing that. And if you're interested in working with me in that realm, currently, I can only take on a couple clients at this rate, and eventually this rate will increase significantly, but $3,500 for 3 months, 1 hour per week on the phone with me. Email me, cliff@podcastanswerman.com if you're interested. Okay, the next thing on my outline for this episode is that tomorrow, Friday, June 17th, is the final day of my 26th session of podcasting A to Z. And I forgot to pull this up. In fact, I didn't forget to pull it up. I didn't think to pull it up until just now. But I'm pulling up my roster of the number of students who have been through this course. And after tomorrow, I will have had 566 students who have gone through Podcasting A to Z. And I've been doing this course since March 2011. And quite honestly, this is where an overwhelming majority of my income has come from over the last several years. And as you can hear from what I've shared just recently here, is talking about this coaching and mentoring, one of the things for me is not that my greatest passion isn't helping people create an audio podcast, although I'm very good at doing it. I'm very well qualified, and I will continue to offer that as a service until I have other products and services. Well, as a service where I'm personally available as your personal coach through the process. I will probably eventually create an online program that is more of a self-study. I'll probably preserve the branding of Podcasting A to Z for what I offer currently, because I believe that it has such a quality reputation of me being your personal coach for 4 weeks, which, by the way, my next session of Podcasting A to Z, I still have at least one more this year. I think it's at least one more. There are two, but my next one is August 1st, and you can register now, by the way, over at podcastingatoz.com. I just recently opened that up. So Podcasting A to Z is where I give people the opportunity to join me personally over the course of 4 weeks. There's up to 20 students, and I personally am your coach through the entire process. And the cool thing is that not only do you get how to learn a podcast, how to learn how to start a podcast, how to launch a podcast, walking you through, you get access to ask me any question you want. And the cool thing is that a lot of people are really wise, and they know that they can ask me things that are not related to podcasting in there, and they get a lot of life and personal development, career coaching kind of questions in. And those are the ones that I really love to answer. So not only do you get a podcast, but as a side benefit, you get access to me as a mentor there as well. So if that sounds interesting, head over to podcastingatoz.com. In fact, I've had a couple students who have signed up and they already have a podcast. I've had one person who didn't even want to start a podcast, had no desire to start a podcast, but signed up just for the access to me for 4 weeks through that program. Again, podcastingatoz.com. But here's the reason why I bring this up is that, I do know that I want to eventually offer some new income streams that tap into this greater passion that goes and extends beyond just the technical aspects of podcasting and has more to do with what we as individuals have to offer the world with our message, and our business. And profiting and creating a business that helps us achieve our mission in life. So it's not just about it's not just about creating episodes and podcast content. It's not just about making money. It's about putting our message out there. What message do we have in our heart that adds value to other people's lives? And then when it comes to what is our mission, what is our purpose in this world, and to take care of our family financially and to take care of the needs of our family. And even beyond the needs of our family, what are some of the desires of our family? What kind of vacations do we want to go on? What kind of lifestyle do we and our family want to live? And what kind of lifestyle do we want to have to be able to give and to contribute to others? And what kind of financial income is necessary to see that happen and to create a business that allows us to live the lifestyle that fulfills the mission and purpose we have discovered for our own lives. And I want to help people take their message, their business, and their life to the next level. And sure, I'm satisfied, or I've been satisfied up to this point to help people in the area of creating a podcast, and that is a part that has helped them to do this. And it's I still see that as an introductory point for so many people and will be for many years to come. But I'm looking to create some new income streams, some new opportunities, and building up some of my other existing ones. And that leads me to this next topic real quick, the things that I need to focus on next in my business. I'm getting ready to go to Dallas. I come back from Dallas. I got a couple weeks. Then I've got Podcast Movement And then after Podcast Movement, I got a couple weeks, and I need to market the next session of Podcasting A to Z. I need to fill that course up. It's important for me to fill that course up each time I do it, because again, right now, it's not my only income, but it's a significant majority of where my income comes in. So there's so much pressure to market that and sell it out. And I've been very blessed to have had sold out courses all of these years every time I offer it. But there's only so many times a year I can offer that, just because it takes so much out of me because of what I put into it and what I offer of myself to those students. So I'm looking at the things that I need to do, what I need to focus on next. And here's what I want to tell you. This is what's on my list. Over the next couple months, between now and August, when the next session of A to Z starts, I want to get serious about setting up this brand new program called Kajabi. It's actually called New Kajabi. Kajabi. newkajabi.com. And this is a program that my friend Ray Edwards purchased, and he believes in highly as something that he's using for his online academy for copywriting, and he's been very happy with it. I purchased it before it came out of beta. I got a 1 year paid in advance thing. It might have cost me $1,300 or might have been $1,700. I can't remember. But it's lifetime. I'm going to always be able to get in for that amount. My price will never go up, kind of deal. And the thing is I've had this since I think November or December of last year. I haven't done anything with it because I've been so busy. I've been working on this year of identity stuff. But as soon as I get back from, actually before, even next week, I think next week, before I'll have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week, I want to use those first 3 days to get in there and start setting something up with Kajabi. I believe what I need to do is set a goal and say, okay, here's step number 1. Forget everything. I just need to put one of my existing digital products and put it into Kajabi. I don't care if it's available for sale just yet. I just need to get it in there and figure out, how do I add content to this? How do I create the course? And just to take one of my existing tutorials and put it in there, and then figure out how to set up the Stripe account for payment systems, because they work with Stripe only, and figure out the payment process and things like that. Set up a sales page for that product, and test it out and make that a goal, to get one product into my new Kajabi system, which is an online course delivery, online product delivery, online store, and even once I get this up, they have an affiliate program built into it as well. So I could see that eventually what my goal will be, and hopefully by August, all of my existing digital tutorials, WordPress for Podcasters, Adobe Audition 101, evaluating your podcast, all of these tutorials, which, by the way, you can find at podcastanswerman.com/products. But eventually, by August 1st, I hope to have all of my existing tutorials available for sale in Kajabi instead of the way that I have them available right now. That is a significant goal. It's one that is achievable. And it's one that will require probably some long days. But the good news is that the only thing I'll have outside of marketing A to Z are these mentoring calls. And I'm going to schedule all of those on the same day so that I can have the other days of the week to fully focus on these other things that I need to do. Now, after I get Kajabi set up, and by the way, I'm thinking I'll probably find a way to put other products, like even my Heil equipment, or my Podcast Answer Man equipment package and my Heil package. I think I can find a way to put those products for sale in that store as well. Even though they're physical products, each of those come with some digital things like tutorials and stuff like that, and some videos about how to install things and all that good stuff. And I could see how that can tie in, and I could even do all of my sales of that. And even Podcasting A to Z, the sales page for Podcasting A to Z, and not only that, but the checkout system, moving everything over to New Kajabi. Now, can I do all of that before the August session? I don't know. And long-term goal, and I think I have another session for A to Z coming up in October. Even getting A to Z, Podcasting A to Z, to where maybe Podcasting A to Z is done even a little bit inside of Kajabi. At least the tutorial assignments will be in Kajabi, and I'm working all of that stuff. These are the things that I needed to work on, and it's brand new content management system, brand new things. I'm not leaving WordPress. WordPress is what I still have as my home on my for my website and stuff like that. But Kajabi will be my online store, my product delivery, all of that stuff. And once I have all of that in place, boy, will it be awesome to finally have an affiliate program that's built into this to help track affiliate sales, and I can even open my affiliate sales up further. And of course, when I do that, I believe I will then be inspired to create a ton of new tutorials. And I have lots of ideas. I have a whiteboard with ideas of new tutorials that I'm thinking of creating. Another thing that's on my thing to work on, and Kajabi is going to be my first one, so mailing list probably won't happen until after I feel like, okay, I've got that. I need to now work on my mailing list. But I want to do something serious about my mailing list. I want to change my strategy for my mailing list. This is something that was going to be a goal for all of 2015, but then I made a decision to focus on my health and fitness that year instead, and to kind of put my business on the back burner, except for podcasting A to Z and just any sales that came in for equipment and digital tutorials. But that's a whole nother story. But it's time to put the mailing list strategy on the front burner again. And as I get into that, I'm going to then, when I get to that realm, that stage, I will be sharing with you my journey of the things that I'm doing, the ways that I'll be changing how my mailing list strategy changes, and the growth of my mailing list, how I plan to focus on the growth of my mailing list, the value that I plan to add to those people, creating logical next steps for people to always help them take them through the next steps of what I have to offer and what I can offer, the value that I can add to their lives through my business, and also through the business products and services of other people that I know. I really believe I have a vision of what I want to do there. And all of this, the Kajabi setup and the mailing list strategy, I'll come through with more of these personal journal updates and share with you what I'm doing through that process. So just know that that's coming on the horizon. Another thing that I need to work on in the months ahead is a website update. My website is not mobile friendly. It is in desperate need of an upgrade. The thing is I'm successful right now financially with what I've got, but I do believe that it's time for an upgrade. The theme just needs to be changed out for something that's more responsive. I want something that's a quality design, but I don't want it to be super fancy and kind of overcomplicated like a lot of sites that I see out there. I'm thinking about whether or not do I want to do this myself. Everything on my website I've done myself up to this point. I'm thinking, is this the time where I say, okay, I'm now ready to invest in hiring a person to develop the design of my website for me? And if I do that, I have a friend in mind that I will probably use to do that. If you're interested in somebody designing your website and you want a personal recommendation from me, feel free to email me, cliff@podcastanswerman.com, and I can refer you to the one guy who I believe would be worthy of my recommendation. And another thing that I plan on working on, and this is something that I will be working alongside of marketing my next session of Podcasting A to Z and my online or my mentoring with one-on-one with people. I'm going to be working on a paid mastermind group. Now, I've had a paid mastermind group in the past it was called the Podcast Mastermind. I learned a ton of valuable things from that experience. It was a huge success for those who were in it. There are actually a couple of the groups are still meeting today, years later. Even though I closed the organization, I gave them my permission to continue to meet and encourage them, and they still meet every single week, even today. And their lives are, a lot of those people who were a part of that, I think over 300 people that were a part of it, their lives today are drastically better as a result of their experience in that at Mastermind. And I'm thinking about creating it's basically a next level mastermind. This is going to be something that would cost $1,000 per month to participate in. I'm thinking about potentially creating 2 different paid mastermind groups, 2 of them at $1,000 a month each. Group A would be for people who are at the beginning of their journey. These are all people who are relatively brand new. And this would be more of me being a facilitator / mentor to that group of people. But those are the ones who could afford to pay $1,000 per month, but be in a group of other people who are actively motivated and taking action. Every week they're doing something, they're sharing their wins, they're motivating and inspiring each other by what they're doing, what's working for them, and facilitating that and having me as a resource, as a mentor. Then I plan on Group B will be also $1,000 per month to participate. And this group will be made up of people who are at my level of where I'm at in my business, or maybe even a step or two ahead, or maybe just one step behind. But the idea is that Group B would be a group of people where everybody in the group is pretty much intimidated by the success of everybody else in that group. And these are going to be high-level performers, kind of like what my own weekly mastermind group is with Pat Flynn and Ray Edwards and Michael Stelzner and Leslie Samuel and Mark Mason. Now, those guys aren't going to be in it. Of course, I'd invite any of them to pay for that. But those guys, I've been doing that mastermind group since 2010. I never charged a penny for it. But I can tell you right now, I guarantee you, if you ask any of those guys, they will tell you that their lives are better as a result of being in this group that I've been facilitating since 2010. And each one of them, every single week for 1 hour, they show up to this meeting. And we very rarely ever take a week off. And here's what I can tell you. An hour of their time is worth well over $1,000 per month. So it's being on a call. So yeah, I definitely know that there's value there. And those are the 2 types of mastermind groups that I'm planning on creating over the next couple months. If any of that sounds interesting to you, email me, cliff@podcastanswerman.com. So when you're emailing me, if you want to know about Tony Robbins event, put in the subject line, Tony Robbins event. If you are wanting one-on-one mentoring with me, send me an email and put one-on-one mentoring in the subject line. If you're interested in Podcasting A to Z, just head over to podcastingatoz.com and get registered today. Or if you want to be notified if you want me to personally follow up with you, if you can't register today, but you want me to remind you to sign up later, email me and put Podcasting A to Z in the subject line. And if you're interested in my paid mastermind group, either Group A or Group B, put paid mastermind group in the subject line. Email me there. So those are the things that I'm going to be focusing on. Those are the things that I'm doing in my business. And I'm really excited about every single one of them and the opportunities that they provide for me to just operate within my sweet spot and to know that I'm going to add the greatest amount of value to other people's lives, which is what really energizes me personally. And it helps me sleep well at night knowing that, wow, I'm having a positive impact on the lives of other people in this world. And I want to help other people through these products and services that I'm offering to experience that great joy as well. You know, real quickly, I said that I'd wrap up with some fitness updates. I'll just tell you that I am absolutely in love with the results that I've seen over the last 19 months of doing what I've been doing, focusing on my health and fitness. If you haven't seen it, there's a blog post that I started 6 months into my health and fitness journey. You can find it at podcastanswerman.com/6 months, all spelled out, 6 months, one word. So podcastanswerman.com/6 months. Go check that out if you've not heard about my fitness journey. You can see what I looked like back in November 14th, 2014. I was 268 pounds on that day and just huge, obese, super fat, and very unhealthy, feeling quite lethargic most of the time, starting to experience some symptoms of some pretty significant health issues on the horizon, and just in desperate need of some change in my life. And I talk about there the decision that I made. I said, I'm going to commit to working out 6 days a week, every week for the rest of my life. And I told my mastermind group about it. One person said, dude, you're overshooting this thing. I think that you should aim a little bit lower so you don't let yourself down. And I'm like, listen, I value your opinion, but I disagree. I'm moving forward 6 days a week, every week for the rest of my life. Well, here I am, fast forward 19 months later, and I have lived up to my commitment of 6 months, 6 days a week, every week for the rest of my life so far. And not only that, but I have burned over 80 pounds of fat. I have piled on, built over 20 pounds of pure muscle onto my frame. And I have never felt better in my life. And two things that I'm really in love with. Number one is cycling. I am absolutely in love with road cycling. This past weekend, I just completed my second 100-mile cycling ride, or 100-mile century ride on my bicycle. It was a part of an event called Ride Cincinnati, which was only a 63-mile ride. And I'm thinking, hey, I don't want to just do 63 miles, which, by the way, is called a metric century because it's 100 kilometers. But I didn't want to just do 63 miles. It was starting in Cincinnati, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to map out a route that will get me to Cincinnati in 18.5 miles. And that way, 18.5 miles there, a 63-mile ride, and then 18.5 miles back, that's 100 miles. And so I left my house Sunday morning at 4:22 a.m. and at 1:22 p.m. I returned after 9 hours, and I had rode 100.1 miles on my bike. That was the second 100-mile bike ride that I did this year. I did 2 of them last year. I absolutely love cycling. I did over 1,000 miles on my bike last year, and I could foresee myself doing 1,500, 2,000 miles on my bike before it gets too cold later this winter. So I absolutely love cycling, seeing some amazing results in fitness. And you can see some of my pictures over there at podcastanswerman.com/6 months. And another thing that I do is strength training. I lift weights. I do some pumping of iron, if you will. I do that 3 days a week. My wife has been doing it with me since the first time. I think we've been doing it for over a year now together. 3 days a week, we have a personal trainer that we pay that basically walks us through the process for an hour every single week. 1 hour per day, 3 days a week. We pay a trainer to help us rip our muscles apart. We do chest and triceps on one day, we do back and biceps another day, and we do legs and shoulders another day. And it is absolutely incredible. It was so painful and so much hard work in the beginning, and now it is a different kind of pain, but a joyful and joyous pain that we love so much, and we're quite addicted to. And the coolest thing is, the most exciting thing, my 15-year-old son recently said, "Dad, can I join you at the gym?" And now we're paying for him to do 30 minutes a week, 3 days a week of weightlifting with our personal trainer. And the cool thing that does is it gives us an extra 30 minutes of cardio warm-up before our session. And our son is doing cardio workup, a little warm-up before his session, and then he does 20 to 30 minutes of cardio after his strength training session. So proud of him. And this is a kid who for the last couple of years has been sitting behind his computer just playing video games, and he's already taller than I am. He's 15 years old. His body is changing, but he was starting to get the belly and stuff like that. And he's like, "Dad, I see what you and Mom are doing. I want to do something about my physical health as well." And so we've now invested in our personal trainer for him as well. And so, yeah, that's a little update on the fitness side of things. So guys, this podcast has been devoted to helping take your message, your business, and your life to the next level. And one of the ways I believe that I do that is by sharing how I'm doing it, to be an example for you guys. And I hope that this podcast episode has been inspirational, encouraging, motivational, and maybe even slightly entertaining for you as well. And again, if you want to reach out to me about one-on-one mentoring, if you want to reach out to me about a Tony Robbins event in the future, if you want to, but really one-on-one mentoring is the biggest thing. Podcasting A to Z coming up in August, and potentially being a part of one of my paid mastermind groups. If any of those things sound interesting to you, hit me up with an email, cliff@podcastanswerman.com. Again, email cliff@podcastanswerman.com. And until next time, my friends, I encourage you to take everything you do in life to the next level.
Podcast Answer Man.